Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to this video titled Adding and Subtracting Fractions. And the goal for this video is for you to understand how to add and subtract fractions. Now you'll need your math journal and a pencil, and I want you to follow along as I work through these problems. Now, let's take a look at 5/14 plus 1/6. It is important to understand whenever you're adding fractions that you must have a common denominator. So 14 and 6 is not common. Now, we learned about in the last video how to find a common denominator. You got to find the least common multiple of those numbers, and the least common multiple of 14 and 6 is actually 42. So what we have to do is change 5/14, so it has a denominator of 42, and also 1/6 to have a denominator as 42 as well. Okay, and I like to set up my problems vertically. Makes it a little bit easier to see. So what do I need to multiply 14 by to get to 42? I got to multiply it by 3. So we do the same to the numerator and denominator. That gives me 15 over 42. Oops, that should be a 2 there. And then multiply both numerator and denominator by 7, because that's what I have to multiply 6 by in order to get to 42. So I have 7 over 42. Now, I can even write this over here a little bit so I can easily add it together so I don't run into my other problem. Now, it's important to understand when you're adding fractions that the only thing you add is the numerator. The denominator is going to stay the same. Okay, so what I do is I add 15 and 7. That's going to give me 22. 42, like I said, will stay the same. And now what I need to do is I have to simplify this. So I have to find the GCF of 22 and 2. And the GCF of 22 and 2 is 2. And so I'm going to divide both numerator and denominator by 2, because it is important to simplify. So 22 divided by 2 is 11. 42 divided by 2 is 21. So I have the answer of 11 over 21. Okay, so again, find that common denominator, and then we just add the numerators together. Okay, denominator stays the same. Let's take a look at 1/20 over 5/12. So again, I do want you to write this out with me. And what we need to do, first of all, we got to find the greatest common factor, the least common multiple of 20 and 12, and the LCM of 20 and 12, if we were to work that out, is going to be 60. So that means our common denominator is going to be 60. Okay, so we have 1/20, and we have 5/12. What do we need to do to 20 in order to get to 60? We got to multiply it by 3. So we multiply both numerator and denominator by 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. 20 times 3 is 60. And then multiply both numerator and denominator by 5, because 12 times 5 gives us 60. 5 times 5 is 25. 12 times 5 is 60. And now we can add both of these together. I don't need to rewrite it because I have plenty of room. 3 and 25 gives me 28. Remember, denominator stays the same. And I have 28 over 60. Now, I do need to simplify this. Okay, so in order to simplify this, I need to find the greatest common factor of 28 and 60. And the greatest common factor of 28 and 60 is going to be 4. All right, so what I need to do is I need to divide both numerator and denominator by 4. And that's going to give me 7/15 for my answer. So again, first step, you need to find a common denominator. And then after you find a common denominator, you do need to multiply both numerator and denominator, okay, by the same number. And then you add the numerators together, and then make sure you simplify at the end. So let's take a look at this same idea, only with adding a mixed number in there. Not too much different, just have a mixed number and that's all. Okay, so what we have here is we have 3 3/8 at plus 5/12. Okay, and let's write this down. So what you can see here is the 8 and the 12, they're not common, so we need to find a common denominator. So the least common multiple of 8 and 12 is 24. So that means we need to multiply both numerator and denominator by the same number. 8 times 3 is 24, so again, multiplying both by 3. Now my whole number is going to stay the same. It's important to understand that. Whole number stays the same. 3 times 3 is 9. 8 times 3 is 24. Now 5 and 12, multiply both numerator and denominator by 2 because 12 times 2 gives me 24. So now I have 10 24ths. I add all these together. The first thing I need to do is add my fractions. 9 and 10 gives me 19 24ths. Now I know 19 24ths is in simplest terms because 19 is actually a prime number. Or if I were to work this out and show you this, the greatest common factor of 19 and 24 is 1. So it's simplified. And I drop my 3 down for the grand total of 3 and 19 24ths. So let's take a look at the next number, or the next problem. And I would like you to do this with me. We have 1 3/10 plus 1/4. So again, we want to write this out. It's hard to do all this in our head. We like to have it written out. Okay, so the least common multiple of 10 and 4 is going to be 20, so that means my fraction, or my common denominator, is going to be 20. Okay, so I need to multiply the 10 by 2 because that equals 20. Do the same thing to the numerator and denominator. Remember, my whole number stays the same. 3 times 2 is 6. 10 times 2 is 20. And then multiply both numerator and denominator by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. And 4 times 5 is 20. Add both of these together. 6 and 5 gives me 11. 20 stays the same. I bring my whole number down. 1 and 11 20ths. I know this is simplified because 11, first of all, is a prime number. That doesn't always mean that it's going to be simplified. Just that's not the only criteria that something is simplified, that it has a prime number. However, understand that the greatest common factor of 11 and 20 is only 1. Okay, so whenever GCF is only 1, that means you have your fractions simplified there. So let's jump over to subtracting fractions. Same idea as far as finding a common denominator. The only thing that's really different about this is that you're subtracting the numerators, and that's it. So we have 5/12 minus 3/20. Okay, so what I like to do again, I like to write everything out. Okay, least common multiple of 12 and 20 is going to be 60. So that means my denominator is 60. Okay, now we got to think about what do we have to do to 12 in order to get to 60? Got to multiply it by 5. Or you could think about 60 divided by 12 is 5, so that's a number that you'll use. So multiply both numerator and denominator by 5. That's going to give me 25 over 60. Multiply numerator and denominator by 3. It's going to give me 9 over 60. Now, if I take this problem, I'm not going to really have enough room there, so I'm going to rewrite it. 25 over 60 minus 9/60. The only thing we're subtracting are the numerators. 25 minus 9 is 16 over 60. Now I need to simplify this. And if I were to find the greatest common factor of 16 and 60, that's going to give me 4. So that means I divide both numerator and denominator by 4 to simplify it. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 60 divided by 4 is 15. Again, you do not need to have a prime number in order for it to be simplified. The key way to know that a fraction is simplified is that the GCF of both numbers is 1. All right, so 4/15 would be the simplified version of 16 over 60. All right, now let's erase a little bit of this here, and we'll take a look at the next problem. We have 9/10 minus 3/14. Okay, so remember the first thing that you need to do is write it out. So let's write it out here. Get some more space. So 9/10 minus 3/14. Okay, so greatest common factor of 10 and 14 is going to be 70. All right, so what we need to do is multiply both numerator and denominator. So 9 times 7 is 63. 10 times 7 is 70. Multiply both numerator and denominator here by 5 because 14 times 5 is 70. It's going to give me 15 over 70. All right, now my next step is I need to subtract these two together. Okay, 63 minus 15 is going to give me 48 over 70. All right, now my next step is to figure out what the least common multiple of 48 and 70 is, and that's actually, greatest common factor of 48 and 70. And what we have here, we can divide both by 2 because that is the GCF. All right, and we have 24/35 for the correct answer there. So let's take a look at one problem when we have a mixed number. It's going to be the same idea. We have 3 and 1/6 minus 1/7. The least common multiple of 6 and 7 is going to be 42. So what we need to do is multiply 1/6 times 7 and 1/7 both times numerator and denominator by 6. Keep the whole number the same. We have 3 and 7 over 42, and we have 6 over 42. Now you could subtract these two. And again, just the numerator, 7 minus 6 is 1. Keep the denominators the same. And then with that whole number, just bring it down. So we have 3 and 1 over 42. So the final part of the video, we're going to take a look at what happens when you have two whole numbers here. So what we have here is 3 and 1/3 plus 2 and 1/9. Okay, we have a common denominator is going to be 9. Okay, so for sake of time in the video, I'm just going to write 3 and 3/9 plus 2 and 1/9. And again, just add the numerators. 3 and 1 is 4, denominator stays the same. And then you just add the two whole numbers like you normally would for 5 and 4/9. Okay, so that's how you add when you have two mixed numbers. All right, and for the next one, I'm going to show you how to subtract when you have two mixed numbers. And we have 3 and 1/3 minus 2 and 1/9, same thing, but just a subtraction problem. So this is going to be 3 and 3/9 minus 2 and 1/9. And so we subtract it now. 3 minus 1 is 2 over 9. 3 minus 2, just subtract the two whole numbers, is 1 for 1 and 2/9. So that's how you add and subtract two mixed numbers. And this concludes the video on adding and subtracting fractions. If you have any questions about this concept, please come and see me.